You are tuned in to the LowBand Show, broadcasting from the storm drains under the big city, where a tunnel crew runs this booth on salvaged gear, pipes humming, steady water dripping, piping surface science and tech news on a low-band signal through the drains. I'm your host, Max Hertz. Welcome in. Here's what we do. We take real science and tech news from the surface, summarize it, then go deeper to educate, entertain, and shed light on what's in store for our collective future. News from the net, clear signal, and a little tunnel. If you came for hype, you took a wrong turn at the storm drain.
Welcome back inside, everyone. Max Hertz here in the booth, ready to parse today's lineup. Wiz, good to have you sitting across from me. Are we ready to look past the surface noise?
Always, Max. The board is full of interesting vectors today. Let's run the telemetry.
First up, we're looking at Bitcoin's latest slide and an investment strategist who is completely writing it off as useless. Then we'll talk about the shift from prompt engineering to what's being called loop engineering. We'll also check out a new AI security engineer taking up residence in the Rust ecosystem, and SpaceX's plans to build a natural gas pipeline called Starpipe to fuel their rockets. Finally, we'll ask whether Tesla is planning to sell modular AI data center hardware. It's a full slate today, so let's get into it. CNBC reported on June 26, 2026, that Bitcoin has dropped again. Wiz, welcome to the show. Here is how the article describes the slump. Friday, Bitcoin closed at just $59,948, dropping 19% just for June, and more than 50% lower than its record high.
A 19% drop in a single month is brutal, but for crypto, that is practically a normal Tuesday. The volatility is built into the protocol. The real question is whether this is just another cycle or a structural decline.
To mark this drop, CNBC interviewed Jeremy Grantham of the asset management firm GMO. Wiz, for listeners who don't know, what is GMO?
GMO is Grantham, Mayo, and Van Otterloo, a massive Boston-based firm famous for value investing and spotting asset bubbles. Grantham is a legend in traditional finance, so when he calls something a bubble, Wall Street listens.
In his interview on Friday, Grantham predicted Bitcoin will gradually fade into irrelevance over decades. Specifically, he said, over years and years, decades and decades, it will dwindle away, I suspect. Not with a bang, but a whimper.
A slow, multi-decade dwindle is a bold prediction for an asset class that has already survived multiple 70% crashes. But Grantham is betting that without intrinsic utility, the network effects will eventually run out of steam.
He also called it a useless speculative asset without intrinsic value, saying it's not a stable form of value. It just halved for no particular reason in a strong economy, so you can't depend on it.
That is the classic value investing view. If an asset has no cash flows, dividends, or industrial use, its value is purely psychological. For Grantham, a real safe haven shouldn't crater during a robust economy.
Grantham argued Bitcoin has no real-world utility either, noting people don't use it to make serious trades. They don't use it to buy their dinner and pay at the supermarket. What it does is allows crooks to move money around.
He is half right. Nobody is buying groceries with it, but calling it purely a tool for crooks ignores its role as a censorship-resistant asset in unstable economies. Still, as a mainstream payment network, it remains highly impractical.
Whether this slump will drag on or lead to that gradual fade remains unclear. Up next, we look at tech sector layoffs. This one made me sit up. The idea that the skills we've spent the last 3 years learning are already obsolete. CNBC reported on June 20th, 2026, that the tech sector is rapidly moving toward loop engineering. Wiz, welcome to the show. Claude Code creator Boris Cherny put it this way: I don't write the prompt anymore. Claude writes the prompt, and now I'm talking to that new Claude that is kind of coordinating.
So the ultimate prompt engineer is just another AI. It makes perfect sense. Humans are terrible at writing precise, structured context at scale, whereas a model can optimize its own instructions dynamically.
OpenAI engineer Peter Steinberger recently shared a public reminder on X, writing, "You shouldn't be prompting coding agents anymore. You should be designing loops that prompt your agents." Wiz, for listeners who may not know, what is a coding agent?
Think of an agent as software that doesn't just answer questions, but can execute tasks, use dev tools, and make decisions on its own. Instead of you typing a prompt, you build a loop that automatically monitors your codebase and directs the agent's work.
To give us a picture, Steinberger shared an example of a loop he uses. Tell Codex to maintain your repos, wake up every 5 minutes, and direct work to threads.
That is the shift from active typing to systems engineering. You are no longer writing the code or even the instructions. You are building the continuous loop that manages the worker.
ChatPRD founder Claire Vaux summed up the movement, saying, "It's really just reminding people that you don't have to use your human fingers to type in a prompt in order for your agent to do work on your behalf."
Rest in peace to those 6-figure prompt engineering boot camps. It was always a temporary hack. Building the software loops around the models is where the real leverage is.
Whether these agent loops will completely automate developer workflows or just create a whole new class of bugs remains to be seen. Up next, we look at a major shift in open source database licenses. The fight here is really about whether open source maintainers can survive the wave of AI-generated bug reports. The Rust Foundation announced on June 16, 2026, a new AI security engineer in residence to help. Wiz, welcome to the show. They noted the same tooling has also made it trivial to generate vulnerability reports that look plausible and are worthless. Wiz, what's your take?
It is brutal. Anyone with an LLM can spam a maintainer with dozens of highly realistic but utterly broken bug reports. It turns open source maintenance from coding into endless unpaid triage.
To fight this, they are bringing in funding. They wrote, "So with funding from the Alpha Omega project, the Rust Foundation is bringing on a full-time AI security engineer in residence." Wiz, for listeners who may not know, what is the Alpha Omega project?
It's a security initiative backed by tech giants to proactively find vulnerabilities in critical open source software before malicious actors can. They're basically funding the shields.
Here is how they define the role's mission. The person in this position will use a mix of human-led and AI-assisted methods to proactively review Rust itself and the crates the ecosystem leans on most and help us separate real exploitable issues from false positives.
It's an automated firewall for the maintainer's sanity. They're using AI to filter out the noise generated by other AI. It's fighting fire with fire, hoping the humans don't get singed.
They aren't working alone either. They noted several other ecosystems have received parallel Alpha Omega grants for the same kind of work, e.g. the PHP Foundation and the Drupal Association, and we plan to share tooling.
This is the smart move. If Rust, PHP, and Drupal can share the playbooks for spotting low-quality automated bug reports, it lifts the defense across the entire ecosystem. Collective defense is the only way to scale.
The new engineer highlighted the core challenge, stating, "One of our next challenges is the wave of bugs discovered by the next generation of AI-powered developer tools."
Exactly. The tools that generate the reports are getting better, but so are the tools to filter them. It's a classic arms race, but now both sides are running on LLMs.
Whether this defense scales in practice is still an open question. Up next, we look at tech hiring. This headline promises Mars, but the reality looks like a utility project. The Rio Grande Valley Business Journal reported on June 23, 2026, that SpaceX plans to build a pipeline called Starpipe. Wiz, welcome.
A rocket company laying its own gas pipes? Talk about vertical integration. They're realizing that if you want to launch skyscraper-sized boosters on a rapid schedule, relying on highway tanker trucks is like fueling a giant airliner with a fleet of pickup trucks.
Here's how Reuters describes the scale of this fueling bottleneck. Designed to be fully reusable, Starship uses about 630,000 gallons of liquid methane per launch, currently delivered by hundreds of tanker trucks in an hours-long process incompatible with Musk's expansion plans.
Moving that much methane to a pipeline isn't just about speed. It's about survival if they want to hit those high-frequency launch goals.
SpaceX president Gwynne Shotwell told CNBC that the company planned to build pipelines and process its own propellant, and was looking into drilling its own natural gas. Wiz, for listeners who may not know, what exactly is Starbase?
Starbase is SpaceX's launch and development site in South Texas. If they start drilling for their own gas there, they are transforming from a rocket builder into a full-scale energy utility.
Whether local regulatory battles will stall Starpipe, or if SpaceX can successfully extract its own gas, remains to be seen. Up next, we look at the shifting landscape of commercial spaceports. Electrek reported on June 21st, 2026, that Tesla may sell modular AI data center hardware. Wiz, welcome. Here is what they found. Tesla wants to sell modular AI data center hardware according to a new trademark application for a product called Megapod.
A trademark for Megapod. Classic. It sounds like they're trying to brand a shipping container full of computers, but the real question is whether they have anything to put inside it.
The filing actually gets into the specifics. It says Megapod covers modular data center hardware systems for artificial intelligence computing, comprised of computer servers, computer hardware for artificial intelligence data processing, networking equipment, power distribution units, and cooling systems. Wiz, for listeners who don't know, what is a Megapod?
It's Tesla's proposed modular data center hardware. Think of it as a plug-and-play AI computing enclosure that bundles servers, networking, and liquid cooling into a single turnkey block.
But there is a major hurdle. The article notes, the bigger issue is that Tesla has no merchant compute hardware business to build on. In other words, they are an NVIDIA customer, not a chip supplier.
Exactly. Building the shell is one thing, but unless you're selling the silicone inside, you're just selling an expensive metal box. NVIDIA already sells entire rack-scale systems, and they actually have the GPUs.
Where they do have traction is power. The article highlights Tesla's own AI training cluster, Cortex, at Gigafactory, Texas, runs on roughly 67,000 NVIDIA H100 equivalent GPUs. Where Tesla does have a real AI data center business is power, not compute. Wiz, for listeners who don't know, what is Cortex?
Cortex is Tesla's massive supercomputer cluster used to train their self-driving models. It's a power hog, which is why Tesla's energy division is actually their secret weapon here.
That power angle is key. The report notes, a Megapod that bundles Tesla's power electronics, thermal management, and the enclosure would at least sit adjacent to a business Tesla actually runs.
Right. They're basically packaging their industrial batteries and cooling systems as a turnkey wrapper for other people's silicon. It's a clever way to sell more megapacks, even if they aren't building the brains.
Whether this trademark product ever rolls out or remains an idle intent-to-use filing is still to be seen. Up next, we look at new developments in space systems. That's our board for today, and it's a heavy mix of infrastructure speculation and shifting code loops. We started with the ongoing slump in Bitcoin, looking at the argument that it still lacks day-to-day utility, while mostly facilitating illicit flows. Then we looked at the shift toward loop engineering, where agent-driven automation might either streamline development or unleash a new wave of software bugs. That ties directly into the Rust ecosystem's new AI security resident, who has to figure out if defensive AI can actually scale to meet those automated threats. And finally, we tracked physical infrastructure, SpaceX attempting to drill and pipe its own propellant, and Tesla filing trademarks that hint at modular data center hardware. A lot of ambitious scaffolding, but we'll have to see which of these projects survive regulatory hurdles and initial testing. We have more build and science threads queued up for the next session. Keep your skepticism calibrated, and we'll pick up the thread when the next signal drops.
It's certainly a lot to consider. If we missed an angle or you have further questions on these topics, please drop us a comment we read them down here in the tunnel. And if this signal helped you stay informed, a like or subscribe keeps the pipes humming. More surface news and deeper dives are coming through the grate soon. Until then, stay curious, and we'll catch you next time on the Low Band Show.